All right, now let's get some opinion here from the Israeli side. For more, I'm now joined by Meir Javedanfar, director of the Middle East Economic and Political Analysis Company. So, Iran is accusing Israel and the United States over the attack. Tell me, what's your view on this?
Well, at this point, I think everybody is being suspected as being behind this attack. The Iranians have pointed a finger at Israel and the United States. However, it is possible that this was also an inside job, because within Iran, after last year's elections, there have been more people who doubt the legitimacy of the regime. The IRGC has had to cull a number of its own officers because it suspected them of being Green supporters. So it's possible that these gentlemen were actually supporters of the Green movement who were eliminated by the regime. This is a possibility that cannot be ruled out. But it is also possible that it was a foreign intelligence agency. At this point, we don't know, but all possibilities must be considered.
All right, you're saying it is possible that there could be foreign forces at work here, but you're also suggesting it could possibly be some sort of political cleansing, that these nuclear scientists were possibly political dissidents. Tell me this, though. Does it make sense, if indeed if this was an inside job in Iran, would it make sense to kill the scientists who could contribute to the country's development?
Well, if they were found to be helping the opposition movement, then I think they would have been considered as a liability. And if that's the case, then killing them this way and blaming foreign intelligence services basically absolves the Iranian government from taking responsibility for killing them. It can just basically blame other countries for their death.
Well, there are some that might say that seems a bit too convenient. Now, according to WikiLeaks, the King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, the King of Bahrain, among other regional leaders, have over recent years been pressuring Washington about Ahmadinejad to, quote, cut off the head of the snake and take action against its nuclear ambitions. Is it possible, do you think, that Washington and Israel have finally bowed to this pressure?
Well, as I said, it's possible that anybody was behind this. We cannot rule out. But there are many countries in the region. Iran's major enemy is not Israel. It is these Arab countries such as Saudi Arabia, who doesn't want to see Iran, a Persian Shiite country, becoming a major player. So I'm not sure that they would have provided logistics for such an attack if it indeed was carried out by a foreign intelligence agency. However, I think the death of these two senior scientists will be welcomed in these countries, because they do not want the Islamic Republic of Iran becoming a nuclear power, having nuclear bombs under any circumstances.
OK, so you're saying that when it comes to the regional neighborhood near Iran, that, OK, there could be pressure from some of the other countries there. They don't want Iran getting a nuclear weapon. So there's regional pressure, there's pressure from Israel, there's pressure from Washington, D.C. But we often hear rhetoric against Iran from Israel and the U.S. Let's now, if we can, let's just now listen to what one Knesset member has to say. Aryeh Eldad, play this, please.
If there was a single man that would kill Hitler in '38, history would be different. And Ahmadinejad now speaks like Hitler and takes the actual measures to fulfill his plan. It's a leader of a state that says that Israel should be wiped off the face of the globe, and he is running to produce nuclear weapon. So if we could stop his plan in any measure, we should do it.
All right, so there's an Israeli Knesset member comparing Ahmadinejad to that of Hitler. Now, the member of the country's legislature essentially calling for the Iranian president to be taken out. But if you can't directly go after the leadership, are they simply going after those bolstering the country's nuclear agenda, i.e. the two scientists?
Well, I have to say that, first of all, Mr. Aryeh Eldad is one of the more extremist members of the Israeli Knesset. He has in the past called the British dogs because the British government expelled some Israeli diplomats. He's not the average Israeli Knesset member, and he represents a very extremist minority within the Knesset. I must also point out that the WikiLeaks yesterday pointed that the United States government also believes that Ahmadinejad is Hitler. But again, I think that's an exaggeration. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad does want Israel wiped out, but I don't think he's Hitler at this stage. And I think for Israel to want to weaken Iran's nuclear program, it's very logical. If another country was calling for the elimination of Russia every other week and was financing the death of Russian citizens on the streets of Moscow, then I don't think Russia would want that country to become a nuclear power. The same goes for Israel. Israel is not against Iran wanting to become a nuclear power because it's a Muslim country, because Pakistan also has a nuclear bomb, and we don't see Israel complaining about that.
Pakistan may have a nuclear arsenal as well, but Israel reportedly has one of the world's biggest nuclear arsenals in its possession, but no one's questioning Israel about its nuclear arsenal.
Yes, of course, because the state of Israel does not go around threatening any country with elimination.
And yet they still refuse to sign to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
I think that's the way to go, absolutely, in the future. I hope all countries of the world who are reported to have access to nuclear weapons go and sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In fact, I wish for the day when there is no nuclear weapons anywhere in the world. But when somebody calls for your repeated elimination, I think it's not in your interest or in the interest of the international community for that country to have a nuclear bomb.
All right, let's wrap this up now. I'm running out of time here, but finally, at the end of the day, when it comes to the attack on this pair of Iranian nuclear scientists, are you thinking it's more politically motivated or motivated more by Israel and Washington, D.C.?
At this point, I really cannot say. All I can say is that all options must be considered, that it was by an intelligence agency abroad. It is very possible. It is also possible that it was an inside job. What I can say with more certainty than anything else is that this is a loss for the Revolutionary Guards, because they're in charge of protecting these people. If it was found that they were members of the opposition and they were eliminated, this shows that there is growing dissent within Iran. And if it was done by foreign intelligence agencies, then it shows that the Revolutionary Guard counterintelligence agency, the OGAB, is not doing its job properly.
All right. Meir Javedanfar, Director of the Middle East Economic and Political Analysis Company. Thank you.